Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus again. And I'm coming to you at one of these moments. I know I'm going to be kind of cutting back a great deal. And so this is really one of those precious moments to me. And if you can take the time to just give me these minutes, I don't know how long it's going to take. It could be short, it might be medium, or it might be long. If you can't do it in one setting and come back to it, that'll treat me just fine. It's just a message that I want to share with you. And then I don't think I'll trouble you too much more. The subject matter that I'd like to speak to you today on is sovereignty. Individual, personal sovereignty and responsibility. Now, when we talk about sovereignty, we're usually talking about authority. We're talking about power. We're talking about control. You know, we say nations have their sovereignty. That means they run themselves. No other nation comes and tells them what to do. I mean, it happens all around the world, but that is what it's supposed to mean. And so when we start talking about sovereignty, that which is applicable to states and other things, is applicable to you. Now, who gives this to the people? Oops. Who really gives that to the people? Well, if you're a state, usually what happens is under democracy, you try to come up with some plans that's promoted and by the people. And, you know, you got other forces, but it's usually the people. On a dictatorship, you probably got somebody go in and beat you side the head, scare the dick at you, and tell you to sit down, you sit, tell you to stand up, and you stand up, tell you to shut up, and you shut up. So that person has taken away all your sovereignty and dictated that sovereignty that you must be obedient to. And so when I speak to you about sovereignty, I'm not going to speak to you outside of myself, because the message that I bring to you at this time is about personal, individual sovereignty and responsibility. Most of you know that in 2-3 days at the most, there's going to be, this is Saturday, we got all Saturday, all Sunday, all Monday, and Tuesday, you're going to be going to the polls and you're going to be voting for your next representative or your next representatives. And you're going to respond to your sovereignty, to be obedient to the sovereignty of the state, or whatever. And so while I was thinking about these things, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this for quite some time, for at least 40 years. That doesn't mean I'm 40 years old. It just means that for the last 40 years I've been into this. But it didn't start. It started maybe 68, 69 years ago. It's just only 40 years ago when I decided to take all that I had learned and start putting it into play for my purpose in life. So I took some notes, ladies and gentlemen, and I am really truly hoping that it might be and leave some significance and understanding to you. Now, things might seem out of line. I didn't try to connect the dots so everybody, when I talk about one thing, if I got several more statements to say about it, I could talk about it at the same time. No, I just got to scatter it about. It's important wherever you hear that. Okay, what I got here? On my first notepad here, I got money. Money is bait to capture people from God. Money is the bait to capture people from God. That's my first note. The second note is the foundation of the anti-God is based on lies. I state that Trump has documented over 7,000 lies to the American people in 2 years. Now let me back up. Money is bait to what? Capture people from God. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know what I'm going to say to you. Some of you already know. You don't practice it, but you know it. And it's going to be like dog bark to some of you. You're not going to know anything that I'm talking about. But when I say money is bait, I'm basically saying to all of the people who can understand English is that the the force, the power that created the earth, that did all of the things that the earth can and possibly do that we are not familiar with yet. When I'm talking about you, we, all of us, human beings, God made the earth to produce, and I hope I don't have to say this part again. God made the earth so that whatever we as human beings would ever need to survive life in the physical form, it was put in the earth. Right there. And we, my friends, we were in the plans. So you know what the earth holds. And we were built. Certain things God gave us. God didn't give that control to us. The control of oxygen to breathe and survive. The blood that's flowing through your veins to take the oxygen to where it needs to go and do the other things that we can continue to live. God took care of that. But then there are other things for survival that are essential that God put in our hands. We must take care of that. Like food, clothing, shelter, education, and health care. That's our responsibility. But it's as essential for survival as the oxygen that we breathe. I guess God must have knew us. Certain things we were going to just mess up. So that breathing stuff, he just took that out of our hands. Maybe you get hungry enough you don't pass out the day within 40 days, you might decide to go get you some food some kind of way or eat you some grass. So what we're saying is that God prepared the stuff. Now, when I say he prepared all of the things that we need for survival, when I say he prepared all of us, requiring the stuff that's common amongst us for survival, and giving each individual, giving you and me, your children and my children, your parents and my parents, a desire to be special in some particular area. Whatever that area is, it is connected to the process, the creative process of goods and services that makes it possible to create an abundance of the goods and services because everybody is involved, everybody benefits, everybody's involved, and having done this, what we create, we are all partners in. We don't owe it to anybody but ourselves. And why is it built? It is built so that your needs and wants and desires for survival can be met. That is as heavenly as I could ever put it. That's as heavenly as I could ever put it. Now, so when we come into the earth, God has already put this in us. So when we come into the earth, even as a baby, but before we come here with our own personal sovereignty. That is the ability, to come on here and have the authority to do whatever good and lovingly is necessary to survive. That's our responsibility. Now, how we do that, we can do it as an individual. I'll tell you this, it's going to be very, very complicated to build a house, to build all the things that go in a house, to take care of your health care, to do your own education, and all those things I just mentioned. As an individual, it's going to be very complicated to do that. So the reason that we all got a little part in it is that God gave us all part of it so we don't have to try to do all these things. All we have to do is exercise that specific gift, because there's a lot of people on earth. Exercise that little specific gift, and it is as important as any gift in that creative process. Well, that means that no one would ever go without. Some people call that operating under love. Some people call it operating under goodness. Some people call it operating under the Spirit of God. But you know, for every left, there's a right. For every go, there's a back. So, I say the foundation of this, my friends, is interrupted by a force called the anti-God. The foundation for the anti-God is built on lies. You see, lies are not truths. They are fake. I heard there was a president once who used to call all of the stuff that other folks said as fake news, when everything came out of his mouth was what was fake. But he knew what he was dealing with. So what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is now that while all things were made for people by people, this anti-God, whose foundation is lies, just convince them the otherwise, convince them the otherwise, and they need something to help them convince the public that they don't need God, that God is holding you back. So they need to come up with a bait. You know, fish. They used to hear say the fishermen go out and somebody's going to help the fishermen fish souls or men, or whatever they call it like that. But you know, you bait your hook. Fish hungry or just floating, think he want a little bite, some refreshments or something. So he look up there and he sees that shrimp on a hook. He don't know it's a hook. Sees that bait or that piece of whatever they got on that hook and say, and he runs up there and say, and grabs that bait. And as he tries to pull away, somebody snatches that bait back. And when he snatches it back, a hook grabs him in his somewhere. And now he's hollering, I don't want to go. But he got to go. And he ends up, rather than eating that bait for his own meal, he becomes a meal to that fisherman. You got that? The bait, the fish, and the fisherman. So I don't care what the fisherman was looking for. I don't care what the fish was looking for. I know the bait just was in there talking about how I get in the middle of this. But it all ends up, when the fisherman goes home, he got a good belly of fish. And that fish cannot go back home or help anybody. So what we have there, ladies and gentlemen, is that this bait, that the anti-God, who has found his foundation on lies, straight up lies, uses a hook on the end of it to put money. And he tells you that with this money you can do everything, have your every need met, everything you want to do, food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, and anything else. Just get this money. Now, what he didn't tell you is that with this choice, you're not guaranteed peace. You're not guaranteed prosperity. You're not guaranteed the joy of life for all people. But for those of you who can exercise this plan to the max, your barns can overflow. You can almost control the world. Now, the problem is that in the original plan, everything is made, every plan is already laid out. All the individuals have to do is recognize their gift, exercise it by the authority of the people to work together. But now, under this anti-God, they work that way. Anti-God creates the jobs. Now, the thing for survival is important. So they're not going to walk away from that. They're going to use that too and everything else. So what do you have yourself doing? You have yourselves out there in the middle of stuff, trying to get as much money as you possibly can. And then they're putting costs on everything now. Now, when they put this thing up and say money can answer your dreams, they went around to everything and put a price tag on it. Our price tag. The price tag used to be, ooh, I want this. Ooh, I need this. Ooh, I desire that. That used to be the price tag. But now the price tag could be, well, I think the time I got my first car, it might have cost $3,000. The time I got my last car, I think it cost $43,000. And I didn't buy it. Now, so they keep messing with the prices. Keep messing with the prices. Keep tying you down. Keep choking you. But if you've chosen the anti-God, that means you don't know the God. And don't matter how much you might get angry with the anti-God, you ain't got no solution. You ain't got no solution. So you walk around with your mouth stuck out. Stuck out. Then you want to get in politics. Politics is still the system that says, well, the people are not satisfied, so let's let them play a role. So we'll come up, well, in America, they come up with Republican and Democrat. Those are two different choices. Supposedly, one represents one thing, conservatism, another represents liberalism. And so now this is the two things that are put before you. None of them takes away anything from the anti-God structure. The anti-God structure is still in play. They have nothing to tell you about God. You still need that money. And you still do not have peace, prosperity, happiness, and joy for everybody. Just for some. Ain't that something? Now, it would seem that since we say the anti-God built up on lies, we cannot say that Trump is the anti-God. We can only say that Trump is trying to get there. Because if you told these American people 7,000 lies, that means you haven't had too much time. All you do is watch TV and tell lies. You haven't had too much time to gather what the truth is, let alone operate in truth. So what you end up seeing is a person like this, they're in the service of an agent or an agent of evil. They are in the business of promoting and giving voice to the anti-God. But can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. You need some support. So your lies have gotten people to say, choose your choice. Republican or Democrat, Republican or Democrat. Now you ask yourself, which one of those satisfies the needs, wants, and desires of everybody? And your answer is none. What? Does that sound like the anti-God in operation? Of course it does to those who know the anti-God for what it is. But to others it's just the lesser of the two evils. Well, I want to move on. I hope you got some message off that. I got a couple other things on there which supported by. Oh yeah, I wanted to add this. I'm not talking about everything I've said thus far about the anti-God. I don't want you to think I'm just talking about Republicans and Democrats. I want you to know that I'm talking about every individual on the face of the earth. Every individual on the face of the earth that have turned against the principles of God. That means you. They don't care if you're in a church. Doesn't mean different because you're a preacher. Doesn't mean anything because you're an elder or pope. Doesn't mean anything because you got the big old church and millions of people saying you got it and you love it because they're giving you all of that bait that they went out and got caught by. Now they throwing it in your tray. Why? Because you captured by that bait as well. They don't know that there's danger. They don't know you the anti-God. They don't know they ain't anti-God. And they definitely don't know they're working for the anti-God. Maybe I should have said it the other way. They don't know they're working for the anti-God. They definitely don't know they're in league with the anti-God. But it's everybody. That means blacks, whites, old, young, I don't care what it is. So I don't want no Democrat think that you're better than a Republican. Let me ask you something. When the Democrats were in power, were there people who didn't have jobs? Were there people who were being paid wages that was not adequate enough to meet the things that would bring the kind of peace and enjoyment to life that they wanted? Did it exist? And if it exists, what's different with it than the Democrats, than the Republicans, the conservatives? Are you saying, well, more people can do it? Okay, let's say more people can do it. You ask those same people who can't do it and see if their testimony is any different if that situation was switched. All right, I think you might got that. That's enough on that little bit. I got another little envelope my wife used to go around and say, he writes all the time. Picks up pieces of paper, envelopes, and write on everything. Well, I do because thoughts keep coming to my mind. But here's what I got on here. I got on this piece of paper, to the people of the earth. Truth is about love and unity. To the people of the earth, lies are about hate and destruction. So I say the world that we live in is about hate But heaven, which we would say we want, is about love. So whether you are Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, it is all about proving you are better. You are better for you than God is for you. So that's exactly what it has happened. You have said that God might have a way for you in his love, in trying to teach you love. But the anti-God, the lies have been slammed against your head so hard, you got confusion. You got confusion. And so, when you think that you might be on the right path, you're just on another path that's taking you to nowhere. This, I believe, started back in the day when they were in the Garden of Eden. Well, it might have started before then, but the story with us says back in the Garden of Eden. Everything was going fine. The liar came out. I don't know if he had legs or mouth, he could talk, but according to the story, they could communicate. And in the garden, they gave up freedom. They gave up sovereignty and gave it to a snake. They gave us sovereignty, their individual personal sovereignty. Adam didn't have to go along with Eve. Eve didn't have to go along with the snake. You don't have to go along with any of that. But you are scared to death. And because of that fear, you will do anything to stay alive. So when we come onto this earth as babies, we come here in a world that has been bound, that overcome by lies, a world that is championed, also in everything it does, the anti-God. And now, here we are in the midst of it. To do what? To learn. I used to say that a person who is chosen by God or selected by God has a responsibility to the world, to go out and save the world. I've been re-educated about that, or should I say the picture's been made a little clearer. What has really happened is this. You have been given some information that others have not been given. You have been given sight to be used in darkness. And with that sight, you're expected to come out and walk by sight and not by darkness. And so by doing, will you cast light on the darkness so that those that are bound in darkness can possibly see. Now, why are some people called by God and others aren't? I don't know. But I'll tell you something. They are. I used to say that truth is all out there, just like all audios, videos that you never see. Truth is out there, and that the pure in heart can connect with it because they're searching for it. They want to know it. Where is it? Just like any scientist. They want to know where the action is. Then sometimes I think there might be other sources where people have just given up on life and they don't care where they live or die. In fact, they be making moves that's finna kill them. Where God can say that whatever the devil is about, whatever this anti-God about, it has not bound this one. And so rather than this one go through all that other stuff that I might tell you about, God just choose them right there. Give them a purpose in life, a commitment in life that they accept. And they'll do the same thing that I just mentioned. But that's the individual that's touched by God. You know, what they say, the Pope, God's man on earth. They started that stuff. White people, so smart. They started that stuff. The royals, kings and queens, superior to others. They started that stuff. God didn't start that stuff. Anyway, that's what we have to live with every day. So, on my last sheet, if you want to go to heaven, try this. Seek heaven, and you will see. You will see that the earth is hell. And having seen this, you will reject the lies, you will reject the money, and you will do love. because you have overcome. Hell in you ain't ready for heaven. Take the hell out and you become heavenly. Love draws together. Like in marriage. Love. Let's get married. Hate causes divorce. Even after you got married. Can't stand each other. Got to separate. No love there. Have you ever heard of a message of unity? A serious message of unity from Donald Trump. Have you ever? I mean, seriously, have you ever heard a message of unity? It seems like every time Donald Trump gets before a microphone, he is intent on one thing. They are no good. We are perfect. They are dumb. They got no leaders. I'm the smartest man on the face of the earth. I know everything. I am great. They ain't nobody. They're just trying to destroy you. I mean, lie, 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 lie. Why does he do that? Because that's where his power is, in lies and people being deceived. So you got all these people being deceived. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, having gotten this much of information, what I would like to conclude in relationship to my subject matter, personal and individual sovereignty. You've heard it said that this is a straight and narrow way. And it is only by the straight and narrow way can you get into the gate that leads to life. But the other gate is broad. The way is broad, the gate is wide, and all kinds of mega folks, nations, and everybody going into it. And it's all about destruction, led there by the anti-God. So when I say this thing is important about your personal, individual sovereignty, is this. Look at hell. You think you can change hell? There is no way. There's never been a man on the face of the earth that came to this earth loving that was going to change hell, did anything as far as changing hell. And so what I have found out, ladies and gentlemen, and I share with you, is that after you've done all of that, you'll find out the whole picture, the whole purpose was not to change hell. It was to change you. It was to put you in the middle of lies, to put you in the middle of degradation, to put you in the middle of war, to put you in the middle of starvation, to put you in the middle of crime and violence, and see how you would end up. Would you see the world for what it is and reject it? Or because you're a little hungry, you say, well, I'll do this for a while. Or because you want to drive a real nice car, and baby, some of them are really beautiful, and they are from God. Don't tell nobody the cars are from God. Don't tell anyone that loveliness is from the anti-God. All of that stuff is from God. Every good thing is from God. And in fact, all things are from God. How you use them determines whether they are used by God, used for God in the purpose that it was made available, or whether you, your own purpose, put God aside and do your own thing. So, being here on this earth today, I asked the people to make me senator from the state of Minnesota. And I've done this since this midterm, 2018. I have not heard one person support me. Not one person support me. Now, I mention this to you because it started about 40 years ago. That's when I started. 40 years ago, and in those 40 years, I've talked about one thing. That's those things I've shared with you earlier about God. And in that effort, I ran for president at least 3 times, starting in 1988. I believe that was the time Dukakis and Jesse Jackson was out there. Yeah, that's the time I think I ran for the president the first time. 88, could have been 84. I don't know. I got a son that was born in 84, and he was just a baby. I was out there campaigning. Anyway, in Minnesota, I ran for governor twice. I ran for the United States Senator back in the 90s. I ran for the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota in the 90s and mayor of Woodbury, Minnesota in the 2000s. And out of all of that, ladies and gentlemen, I talked about peace and prosperity and joy of life. I talked about the fulfillment of dreams. I talked about everything that is essential for survival for everybody in the state, in the country, and all over the globe. It was God's design for them. That's what I talked about. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you see me? You see anybody? This is a mega church. No, I don't think you see anybody else. For all of these years, just about 40 years, I've stood alone. But I haven't given up. I've traveled the country, been in overseas, been in jails and prisons. I'm not talking about to preach. I've been there serving time because I was standing up for God, standing up for good, standing up for love, standing up for you. Did it make a difference? Not as far as you're concerned, because you were so caught in that lie. You're so caught in that anti-God, till anything that's outside of the lie, anything outside of the anti-God seems foolish to you. So when I tell you, if you're ever looking for freedom, it's not going to come by some Republican Party. It's not going to come by some politics. Yeah, freedom will never come like that, my friends. Freedom is from God. And freedom is to everybody on the face of the earth if they claim it. Now, there's some responsibilities when you claim freedom. Because when you claim freedom, that means you walk to the dictates of your heart. I would just advocate that if you got God in the plan, you'll be all right. If you're just walking on your own, you're going to get a lot of nails in your toes. But if you're walking by God, the nails might still be there. But I'm telling you, the nails won't stop you. So, with your individual, personal sovereignty, do you sell out? Jesus, for those of you who still believe in Jesus, because they've been doing a lot of stuff to tear him out. When he came, he saw the cars, he saw the barns and the beautiful homes and the mansions, well, you know, of that day. They were all offered to him. He saw the control of power and manipulation of the folks, and it was all offered to him. Says, oh, yours, because I need what you got. Jesus, in essence, says, not today, because whatever you got, if I got to sell my soul to get it, you can have it. And they said, but they didn't just say it by themselves. The system, the state didn't just say it by itself. It went and got all that other people out there talking about they know God. They all come together. Each of them supporting each other. Even some had to secret because they didn't want everybody to know that God had connected with the world. But they all got together. And as one of my friends say, they didn't hang him on the cross. They hung him on a tree, whatever that means. But what it meant was, exercise your sovereignty and you got no place here. And that's what the whole story is about, ladies and gentlemen. You got sovereignty. And the only one that has sovereignty over you are those that you allow. Either God or the anti-God. God or the anti-God. When you come on the earth, you're controlled by by God. But as you grow, mature, you are developed by the anti-God. And so many of you have to go forever, led blindly by the anti-God, thinking sometimes that you're blessing God and you're still doing nothing but serving the anti-God. Why? Because you don't know the truth. Why don't you know the truth? Because the truthers, they're killed right away. The anti-God don't want them here all this time, corrupting you with the truth. And so what I have decided, ladies and gentlemen, is just 40 years is enough. 2000, was that November 11th? Or was that September the 11th, 2001? September 11th, 2001, I was in prison. I was in prison. Stillwater State Prison, for all of those of you who want to know why. Why was I there? Because early in the 90s, when the Daddy Bush went into what they call Desert Storm, I was against it. My spirit didn't want these people to die. My spirit didn't want these people to lose their lives. So I stood up against it, and I tried to tell all you church folks And I tried to tell all you good people, because I knew the others didn't give a darn. But I thought that the church folks and the good people would care. I stood alone. But I said, well, let me do something. I committed a crime against the state. A crime against the state. I don't follow the state's rules unless I have to, or unless I choose to. I'm not bound by the state rules. So I violated that one, and it ended up costing time. And in costing me that time, I noticed the people that I had been speaking to. And on that date, when they came to release me, I asked myself, what am I coming back out into the world for? Nobody supported God according to the plan he had given me when I was out there before. What can I do now that's going to make a difference? So I ended up anyway losing that argument, and I came back out into the world. I've been out of jail since 2001, 17, 18 years, and I haven't been back. I used to go to jail all the time. Why haven't I gone back? Because going back to jail was not going to do anything for you. And I had learned the lesson. So I didn't need to go back to jail for me. The only thing that would keep me back in jail now is because I have said this to you. Personal and individual sovereignty and responsibility. Now, if I say God is my leader, then the dictates and the rules of the world does not operate on me. I'm free. I'm free to live with the kind of house I want, the kind of food I want, the kind of clothing I want, the education I want, the health care I want, and the career that I exercise right now. And speak for you. But I learned this also. God loves you much more than I do. But you know what God does? God gives you choice. Hello? My phone, my daughter's calling me. Taylor, you on the phone? Taylor, what you want? Go to the counter, ask for Eddie Marcus, medication for Eddie Marcus. They're going to give it to you, one package. They're going to ask you the address and stuff like this, and you just give them the information. 12 books. Bye. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way that works. You are going to, this message to you is to let you know that you won't be able to blame Trump. You won't be able to blame Earth. You won't be able to blame the world. Because in God's love, you will stay here long enough to go through all the hell you created. Because God didn't do it. You shall reap what you sow. All the hell that you created. Now, let me give you an example. As plain as daylight to me, Donald Trump is one of the worst figures I've ever seen the American people say yes sir to. But they were put in an awkward position. This time they couldn't say yes to goodness because goodness wasn't up there. Their choices were all evil. And in order for you to get anything good out of that, you had to exercise your own personal, your own individual sovereignty. That's to say to the system, no, you're not going to trick me with this. I've heard your lies all my life. I've lived amongst your lies all my life. You're not going to put two demons before me and tell me that's my choice and I got nothing else to do. And I sit back and accept it. Then my choice lose, another choice win. Now I'm fighting against the other choice, getting divided and divided and divided more. Don't you know that's the devil? Don't you know that's the devil? Who amongst you? Who amongst you think that it's okay for some people to be without housing? Whether in the United States, India, Africa, anywhere. How many of them, who amongst you think that you got the right to sit at the table and eat a good meal because you had a job and you were special and you exercised yourself to take care of yourself while robbing God's? The difference is when you're robbing God, these God folks that let you rob them allow you to do it for one of the reasons is that they don't know any better. Now me, I am not going to, even though I'm entitled to the things that I just got through mentioning to you. Sometimes I wish I could just go on and stand up for them, but I'm not going to do that. Because I don't want no big old fine house when you living in something less than fine. I don't want the car of my dreams while you still riding around with a car with rust on it and needs alignment, engine need oil change. Yeah, I want to travel the world and see all the different kinds of things that God has put available that would bring excitement to my life. But that's not so important when I think about you can't even go to a funeral. Your parents die, your children die, your relatives die, your associates die. You can't even go to the funeral. That's the devil. But you chose it. You chose it. All of you Democrats out there, all you good people in the world, I want you to know the pain and suffering that the people of this nation and any nation go through is by your power. You the one that give the devil permission. Eve could have told that snake to go to hell. Adam could have told Eve to go to hell. But now, they won't be friendly. Eve put the snake around her neck, let him crawl all over her body. Adam thinking about what wonderful times he can have with Eve and how boring it might be without Eve. And so he accepted hell. Do you get it, ladies and gentlemen? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Well, if you don't, I ain't mad with you. Because I am not going to be obedient to anti-God. I know that sucker. You know, years ago I told you about Trump. I told you about all these folks. Many of you might ask yourselves, how do you know? I told you I used to work for that demon. I know that demon. I know that demon don't care nothing about you. I know the lies that he would tell. It's like this. It's just the same old lie teenagers tell each other. Boy, see a girl, she pretty. Oh, baby, I love you. You the sweetest thing I ever seen. He a snake. And she just, woo, I love that conversation. He likes me. Now you know she done gave in. She gave in. It's my boyfriend. And now he using you like a Kotek. And she still don't know it. Somewhere down the line it comes out, oh my God, I was used. See, you know, any of you got children, you know that you can't tell a teenager nothing. Now, when I say that, I don't mean every teenager. Some teenagers were brought up to listen. That don't mean they grow up to listen. They're definitely not to God. Because if they were listening to God, you would know about it. They'd be on the death row.
Who is this? Who is this?
Uncle G, you better not bring no. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have my brother-in-laws there at my door, so I'm going to have to cut this conversation short. I hope it is good enough for you. Once again, this is Eddie Marcus, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people, and I'm saying to you, wake up. But be aware, sovereignty, personal, individual sovereignty and responsibility. Bye-bye.